evening. I'd like to call to order the Rochester School Board, Rochester City Council Joint Building Committee to order on February 14th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. And before we start with the first agenda item, I would like to welcome our two school board members who are filling the two vacancies we had, and that is Shane Downs and Steve Cusimano. Welcome. If you guys would like to take a minute to introduce yourself and give us a little bit about you.
I thought that was a joke.
That was serious.
This is my second term on school board. I have 3 kids in the district. I work here for the city. That's about it.
This is my first time on this board and first term. I have 3 kids currently in the district, 1 at Plymouth. I've had 1 graduate from the high school, retired military, and currently work as a facility supervisor and production maintenance supervisor and site manager.
Thank you. Welcome. All right, first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able, please rise. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is the approval of the January 10th, 2024 minutes. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
There being a motion and a second. Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is our architect update. Good evening.
Good evening. Happy Valentine's. I love the red.
Thank you.
So we're here to give you an update on where we're at. This is the current plan. We've been having bi-weekly meetings with the engineers, civil, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, as well as Kyle and David. And this is the current plan. We had to do a few changes based on some code updates. The biggest change, even though this building is designed for 420 students, per the code, the second floor can fit 500 people. So we actually had to add in an egress-only stair at the second floor. So that was a minor change there. Our square footage is still within what the DD estimate carried, so there's no kind of cost impact at that for square footage. We've reorganized the first floor a bit in doing that because as part of some of the value engineering that we did, we got rid of the flex room, the second flex room on the upper floor. So we had to change some of the arrangements of the rooms here. So the special ed suite is here, the flex classroom that we still have is here, and we moved the library to the end, which I think actually is an improvement to the plan because the public will utilize that space and it will be directly adjacent to the parking, and people can possibly get in at that separate entrance after hours. We have added casework. We've gone through outlets, which you'll see as a small slide. So we're getting into the very nitty-gritty. This is a work in progress. This is not finished. This is a flooring pattern plan. So we're starting to look at some possible colors and designs for the floors. Obviously, these big gray areas are kind of back behind the scenes utility areas. We're going to look at some possible more colors for the different grades. So maybe each, the first grade has a color, the second grade has a different color for wayfinding. And this is the upper story. We're trying to make this kind of square at the top of the stairs, more wayfinding, more interest, so it just doesn't feel like a straight hotel corridor where you have the same thing. So these are some fresh off the press, literally today, site renderings that Banwell and Ty and Bond have done. So this is a bird's eye view, so if you were actually down at a 5'6" level, you wouldn't see the building like that, but we brought it up so that you could kind of see what it's looking like from the intersection as you're entering the site. This is a bird's eye view again of the loop around for the parent drop-off as well as the bus drop-off and the parking lot. This is a close-up of the parent drop-off and the walkway to the main entrance as well as the parking. We are planning on having a flagpole right at the entry too. And this is from the other end, as if the library's right on the right as you're coming to drop the students off. This is a very bright day. This is the architectural, so this is without the site, just so you can have a close-up to see the materials. The concrete masonry here, we have a brick banding, and at the entry where the admin is, we've raised that brick. We are working on a parapet detail to help shield the mechanical units. We have siding that's a hardy plank cementitious siding up high, and have done some nicer windows on the media library learning commons area. Just a closer view. Colors still aren't set. We have, plenty of time to choose colors, so we're trying to get the documents done so they can get out, but we'll have a full range of color selections for those. This is an interior rendering of the lobby. This is, as you further turn right after the admin, this is the conference room, and this is the media center, the cafeteria. This is inside the cafeteria, looking at the stage. And all of these black structure, it's going to be painted all the same color. It's just how this rendering software at this point does that, so it won't look so busy. This is an interior rendering of the gymnasium, showing the nice wall padding as well as the sound attenuation Techno panels and our daylighting band up around. So we'll have a frosted glass that has the security film on it so that it won't be glaring inside that space.
Will there be shades that drop down?
Yes, yes there will.
Okay.
This is the fly-through? Yes. So we've done an aerial fly around so you can kind of see the building and the interior. And this literally was just hot off the press too. So we'll utilize this as a design tool as we go through construction. So once we get submittals on all the finishes, we'll be able to, take you into the space and show you what that would look like. That's the cafeteria, so large windows that look out to the wetlands in the back. The utility areas where the kitchen deliveries will be. This is the back stair, the classroom wing. Kindergarten classrooms on the first floor. The end stair where the future addition could go for more classrooms. Good job, Dave, on making this work.
I take no credit.
So this is walking in the school, a secure entry, the main lobby with a cupola up above, a display cabinet, go right into the gym. So we have one main court and two cross courts. We'll have a divider curtain down the center. And this is going by the cafeteria, and the admin is on the right. Proscenium opening for the platform. It's not a full stage, it's a platform. And this on the left is kind of where you would enter to get the food in the kitchen and the cafeteria. So this is just an example. We have, we are developing a list of ad alternates that can be priced out for things that are more wish list items. But what we did here with the electrical engineer and Dave's help is to look at what you had at East Rochester School that you most recently built versus this design. So East Rochester had 18 outlets per classroom. We are suggesting, and the fire department has requested, that we increase that number to minimize extension cords. So we have 10 more outlets per classroom. We have 2 setups for the teacher stations, so one on the side of this main screen here, and one in the back, so that depending upon how the teacher wants to lay out their classroom, they have 2 options. We are going to do an additional add alternate to add 1 more quad to this back teacher station as well. So we'll get that price, but at this point, we didn't feel it was prudent to add that in, having 10 more than what you have.
So if I could just jump on outlets for a moment. What's driving this is we get fire inspections from Deputy Chief Hughes, and Deputy Chief Hughes follows National Fire Code, as he should. There's a provision in the National Fire Code, and I don't quote me, I think it's 11.3.1, and it says that power strips shall not be used. Doesn't say should not, it says shall not. Now, a shall not code is, you can't violate it, you have to conform. So every time Deputy Chief Hughes walks into our schools, he finds a power strip, he writes up a violation. So we need, working with Deputy Chief Hughes, he recognizes that our schools don't have enough power to not use them in certain situations. But the fix would be moving forward, we want to be adding more outlets anytime we change something, we're going to come up. So right now, as designed, we're exceeding East Rochester. But it may not be enough that we're never going to need a power strip in that building. So thus the addition, if this board decides that they want to add additional funds to go even further on outlets, that number will come before you at some point and you can make that decision. And hopefully you'll remember this conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, do you have any questions for Matt?
On the flooring, have you spec'd out the type of flooring that you're gonna go with?
We are in the process of doing that. Through the value engineering, our base bid, unfortunately, is going to be VCT, but we'll have several other alternates for that.
Yeah, based off our experience, I think that shouldn't even be in the basement. Yeah,
I totally agree. Totally agree.
thank you.
Tim?
Sure, so back to the exterior building, of the building. And I'm going back to when we first picked this, well, not this plan exactly, but moving forward with this kind of general plan. And I think that the gable-style roof on the small center section, we had picked gable-style roofs to try to kind of fit in with the neighborhood. Now it's like about 75% of the building is flat roof, and there's that small area in that center section is that gable style roof. So I'm not an architect or anything, but at this point, do we want to keep even those gable roofs if the entire building is going to have this kind of industrial style flat roof style substance to it? Is there a reason we're keeping that area looking different than it looks? Again, I'm not an architect or anything, but it looks a little awkward to me. It looks a little out of place to me.
It's a matter of preference. We can look at alternative designs for that. Obviously, when it is different, it draws your attention, so it's a natural way finding to identify the entry. So that was the thought. It was also, we wanted to break down the scale of the building. So to have a flat roof on only one-story section is pretty dismal in our opinion. So we felt that this kind of tied into the old farmhouse, old schoolhouse, but it's a small area. And it also cuts down the scale of the entry for the kids, which are, smaller elementary school children here.
And another question on siding. So the kind of the bottom half of the building is brick, and the gray area you said is hardy plank.
Mm-hmm.
Is that painted?
It is. It is.
So what's the maintenance?
It's double the duration of a wood siding, so 10 to 14 years, depending upon the orientation.
Yeah. And is it a considerably cheaper alternative than like a panel?
We had metal panel before, but it was, and I believe we can still add alternate to change to that, so we know what the cost is. I think that would be an easy one to do. The reason why we did, and we were able to retain the brick at the base because of the drip and the splash and snow. You really don't want anything close to the ground that can rot or delaminate.
Thank you.
Kevin?
Yep, thanks. You just had on there's not a page number on here, but the rendering that says lobby. I had the same kind of like immediate concern last month, and then I heard it again from the public. So my question is basically about the glass, like the glass walls. So like in this image here, which that doesn't look like the one I have,
So the one that goes into the cafeteria?
so, yeah, like that one, yeah. So like when you look at it from this perspective, you see a lot of full glass walls. So from a safety perspective in this time, none of the classrooms have glass walls, correct?
Correct. They just have glass in half the door, and typically we do the blinds on the inside of the door, right? Yeah, we can cut down, it's kind of a tricky balance to make it feel welcoming and warm and a nice environment versus defensive architecture, so.
And that's all isolated, like that glass wall is all isolated to this like general area,
Right.
not individual classrooms.
And there is a secure entry, so during school hours, it is locked down, so we can reduce, it helps your budget to reduce the amount of glass, but it
I was just trying to clarify that it's not individual classrooms, it's this common area.
right.
I wrote that down.
And I'd add that the glass at the secure entryway will be, I believe you mentioned, it'll be treated with safety film, which we've been lucky enough to see grant dollars to do that across the district over the next maybe 24 months. We'll have completed that project, and that will include this school. And there's some stuff you can watch online when this film gets put onto a window. It's not bulletproof, but it's smash proof. And you can see like actual videos of full-grown adults with baseball bats working on a glass door, and it literally takes them about 10 minutes to get through the thing. It's pretty impressive.
I have an easy one for you, Ingrid.
Okay.
You mentioned that there's an access way for the public for after hours at the library. I didn't see it on there.
Well, and this is one of the things, this is a work in progress, so it's the stair at the end, but we could also add a door right here. You know, it's a big enough space where we could have an exterior door that leads to the parking lot.
Okay.
But this is the stair here, so you would come in and it would be right here.
Okay, thank you.
In the electrical typical classroom, are you gonna put all those outlets on one breaker or multiple breakers? Are you gonna separate them?
That's a good question. I'm not an electrical engineer, but I can find the answer for you.
Having talked with her a bit
Yeah.
extensively on that, on the internals and that, they're speccing it so that you're not gonna get a blown breaker, in other words. So,
They're specking it up based off of what their teacher might plug in or is gonna plug in.
They're building
Because
it.
we're talking about
There's
staying away from power strips.
right.
If we're talking about staying away from power strips, then we should probably split in two breakers in one room because we don't know what they're gonna plug in.
Agreed. Any outlet designed, built, installed will conform to National Electric Code. So it depends, there are 15 amp breakers where you can put 10 1.5 amp outlets on, or they can run 20 amp circuits, but everything will conform to National Electric Code. And as far as large draw devices, by policy, we restrict a lot of that kind of thing, little reach-in refrigerators, coffee makers, microwave ovens, resistance heaters is a big one. All of that stuff is restricted by school board policy. So what we're talking about plugging in is more the convenience type items, but my desk, I have a computer that gets plugged in, there's a printer that gets plugged in, my telephone gets plugged in, I charge up my cell phone, I charge a couple other things, I get over 4 very quickly. And if someone else is using at my level, they're gonna need more than a quad outlet at their desk.
I have a question about the gymnasium. Is it not common to have bleachers in elementary school gyms since this isn't a multi-purpose room?
Yeah, it's not common in elementary, we have done it. We've done an add alternate to add 10 feet plus 3 rows of bleachers. I guess, do other of your elementary school gyms have any, will this be used by any rec departments that would need that?
That's what I'm not sure of that I wanted to discuss, because I don't even know with the heights of the basketball hoops are probably not at the height for like a middle school game or, right, competition?
They'll be 10 feet.
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't know if that's something we should discuss, what the future planning and purpose is for this gymnasium, since it's not a multi-purpose room. Is it something we would need in the future, or no?
We could look at it.
So we would need to increase the size of the gym to accommodate bleachers. It's not just the cost of the bleachers that you're talking about adding square footage to the building. It becomes pretty expensive. And we thought about rec programs and realized that, well, the rec programs exist already somewhere. And if the rec wanted to become involved with this project and say, well, we want you to build more so we can use it, the rec is welcome to have those conversations. As far as the layout of the floor, we've been speaking with Ms. Coulson and Mr. Director Hebert on what the needs are for elementary level, and we've talked about the heights of the hoops, we've talked about the lines. There's one full-size, adult-sized court going one way, and then there's 2 smaller courts going the other way with a divider curtain. And all of those lines have been spoken through with the athletic departments across the district.
Great.
I'm not sure if Matt asked about it, but the flooring, is that like a rubberized flooring or is it like concrete?
Right now, well, we have a mix. So all the utility areas have sealed concrete. The kitchen area would have quarry tile.
No, I'm sorry, just the gym.
Oh, the gym?
The gym.
Is wood. Wood.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Is it that plastic clicking right now?
It's not plastic. I
Well-
mean, it's wood at the top. It's not a full 5-inch built-up sprung floor like a high school. But it is wood.
It's an engineered product.
Engineered product.
And what's the time frame on that for?
We're just installing it in another, Gordon.
Yes.
It's not a long lead time.
Oh, you mean to get it?
No. How long will it last? I'm sorry.
Warranty?
Yeah, warranty, like how long till we're looking to have to replace it?
All these things have to have at least a 20-year warranty because we can't buy something less than what your bond for your financing period would be.
Okay,
So yeah, put it in 20 years on that at least.
great, thank you.
And we'll have a sample to show you. So again, at some point, if you were to want to participate in that, the JBC, you could say, we don't like this material, we like this. Time for that sort of discussion as we go along. That one has to be decided early because the depth of the floors, but a lot of these decisions that Ingrid's talking about, there's time to run it up the flagpole and bring you in samples.
Now, the rubber floors that I've known they've used in the past, are those not as common anymore, or are they not as durable than this product?
We have a poured rubber floor at the middle school right now.
Yeah.
And we've had to re-pour it and repair it very, very frequently. The manufacturers, they're used widely in Europe, the poured floors. And you have the manufacturer, you're actually supposed to take your shoes off and you run around in there in your stocking feet. But we don't do that. And we roll bleachers back and forth across it. We got middle school kids in there. And during COVID, it turned into a cafeteria. So yeah, the poured rubber floors are really not durable.
Okay.
This is a great engineered solution. The other end of this would be a real wood floor, which is probably a 50-year product, but it would be considerably more expensive.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
One other question, are the exterior windows, are they able to be opened, are they
Yes.
only closed?
Yes, we
So-
did push back on that, so yes. We have a mix, not all windows are operable because you don't need them, but the classroom windows and a few select other ones, yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Ingrid?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up is our civil engineering update and traffic study presentation.
Thank you, good evening. I'm Patrick from Time-Bond. I'm going to touch on the civil. I'll be brief because there's not a ton of updates there, and then I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Greg, who will come up to present the traffic study findings. So with respect to the site, the plans themselves probably don't look too much different, but we have been working behind the scenes since we last met with you folks. We have since responded to comments from Alteration of Terrain and HDES and submitted those. We're anticipating permit by the end of the month for the stormwater design. With respect to local, we had, since we met with you folks, we had submitted to the TRG. We've met with those folks already, received their comments, and in fact, yesterday we resubmitted in response to their comments, and we're scheduled to meet with those folks on February 22nd, I believe is the date. So everything's kind of moving with the permitting side of things. With respect to the site, it's just some high-level changes that I'll touch on. In the rear here, you can see this was one improvement to the plan that came out of TRG feedback. We had previously situated, these tanks and utilities were actually set back further from this striped area, impacting that wetland buffer. We've shoved that all now forward and eliminated that, almost all of that wetland buffer impact, so that has been an improvement. And with respect to the wetland buffers, we've also relocated kind of some of where our snow storage areas were shown, taking those out of the buffers as well, so those have been improvements to the site plans. On the stormwater front, the last slide that was just there, again, probably doesn't look very different, but those are just some minor revisions with respect to feedback and comments that we had gotten from Alteration of Terrain. And then moving to the utilities. Again, nothing of significance. We did shift some hydrants around with respect to feedback that we had gotten from the fire department. Again, I mentioned the utilities in the rear. And then actually hasn't even made it to this plan yet because it's fresh today. We met with Eversource last week about the routing of the electric service through the site. We are revising that. That's actually now going to follow the drive and come up along the rear and tie into the utilities in the back, and that had to do with our meeting on Eversource on site last Friday. If we were going to actually do this, Eversource had indicated to us that we're going to have to clear cut and construct a cross-country road in order to provide maintenance, so that seemed really expensive and not the right thing to do, so we are in the process of rerouting this.
We've got some slides on the new
And
layout later.
Exactly, so we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But really, that's just kind of like a high-level update of the civil changes, and I'll just ask Greg to come up and review the traffic with you folks, because I know that was something that was requested at the last meeting.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay,
Thanks.
Thank you. Again, my name's Greg Lucas. I led the development of the traffic study for the project. And so this slide shows our study area. When we first started looking at this, we included in our study the driveway to be created by the school, which you can see identified there in the outline that says site, and then the closest intersection on either side is Whitehall Road to the southeast, and then the intersection of Ida Circle and Eagle Drive to the north. And so our process for the study was to collect traffic count data, turning movement count data. That was done in September of last year. And an automatic traffic recorder, an ATR, which determines the amount of traffic on the roadway over a 2-day period, 2 typical weekdays, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And so that showed 6,100 vehicles per day. It records speed as well, which was interesting because we recorded speeds, 85th percentile speed, which is the speed that 85% of the traffic is traveling at. 53 miles an hour northbound, 49 miles an hour southbound. It's posted for 30, so I'm sure you're all aware that people carry some speed along the roadway. Once we have that turning movement count data, we do seasonal adjustments based on New Hampshire DOT guidelines. And so New Hampshire DOT standard is to adjust to a peak month, not an average month, but a peak month. And so we adjust that data to the peak month, which is actually the summer. So it's a conservative case when you compare it to traffic for a school. But again, these are the guidelines that we follow. And then we look at growth for a 7-year horizon. We look at a 1% per year growth in the background traffic data. Again, that's separate from the traffic that is created by the school. That's just a background growth rate. And so we adjust that by 7%. That accounts for any background growth, any other development in the area, anything else that contributes additional traffic to the roadway and to the study area. We looked at collision history. We reached out to the police department to see if there was any history of crashes in the study area for a 5-year period, and we found none. They identified none. They identified 4 crashes at the intersection with Portland Street, 2 in 2019 and 2 in 2020. Those are the closest crashes recorded to the study area. So the next step is to look at trip generation to determine the amount of vehicle trips that this school will generate. For that, we use an industry standard source, the Institute of Transportation Engineers. We look at data for other elementary schools and we project that for a 400 student capacity. Determines that in the weekday morning peak hour, there'll be 160 entering vehicles, 136 exiting vehicles. In the afternoon, 83 entering, 97 exiting. In the morning, the peak hour of the school and the peak hour of the roadway, peak hour of commuters generally align, very close to one another. In the afternoon, they're different. These numbers are the peak hour of the school, which we then attribute to the peak hour of the roadway. Again, it's kind of a double conservative excuse me, analysis method to assume worst case of the school at the same time as the worst case of the roadway. The internal circulation of the site allows for queuing of up to 277 vehicles, so lots of room for parent drop-off and pick-up for those folks to queue on site and not back out into the roadway. When we looked at the street, we looked at turn lane warrants to determine whether a northbound left turn lane and the southbound right turn lane were warranted. And so for this, we use industry standard methodologies from the NCHRP, the National Cooperative Highway Research Program. And it has an evaluation, has a chart that you compare volume and speed. And because of the speed that was recorded, those warrants were both met. The left turn lane, northbound left turn lane warrant was met in both peak periods. The southbound right turn lane was warranted in the morning peak hour. You see there a screenshot of the design, which includes both of those turn lanes. It includes 100 feet of storage for that left turn lane, a shorter 50 feet of storage for the right turn lane. And for obvious reasons, the purpose of those turn lanes is to get turning vehicles out of the traffic stream. The traffic study also looked at sight distance. So for this, we want to make sure that it's safe for folks to, it's safe for the driveway to operate, for folks to enter and exit. And so we look at both stopping sight distance and intersection sight distance. Stopping sight distance is required per AASHTO industry standards. Intersection sight distance is desirable. Stopping sight distance, quick, simple explanation, is the distance that the approaching driver needs to see before colliding with an object. The idea is that a car is pulling out of the school and someone's coming along, they have adequate visibility so they can see that vehicle and they can stop in time before colliding with that vehicle. And so our evaluation shows that that's met based on the existing recorded 85th percentile speeds, which as mentioned were relatively high. Speed reduction through school speed zoning or just enforcement of the existing speed limit can further improve that stopping sight distance condition because it will reduce the requirement of distance because of speed, because the speeds will be lower. Finally, we looked at operational analysis, both in the existing condition, the future no-build condition, which is that 7-year horizon with just the background growth, and the future build, which is that 7-year horizon with the background growth and with the school. Level of service, which is a simple measurement from A to F, A being best, F being failing, is unchanged between the no build and build conditions, showing that there's generally very minimal impact of the school on the future condition. The exit driveway, which is new in the build condition, operates at an acceptable level of service D or better in both peak periods. And queuing is limited to 1 to 2 vehicles, both in the turn lanes entering the school and from the driveway exiting the school. So in conclusion, the study area can accommodate the traffic that's expected to be generated by the school, as well as future traffic along the roadway. This also includes, and I know it's been a point of consideration, the additional 147 lots that are still to be built in Terra Estates. The background growth that was, although we didn't have a specific addition of that, because there was no kind of identified definitive plan for what was going to be built within that 7-year horizon. We know that, there's a couple ways we looked at this. One is that the background growth included in the study calculations is greater than the traffic that would be generated by those 147 lots. If we took the traffic today that was counted at Eagle Drive, which is the only access in and out of that neighborhood, and doubled it. So that's conservative because there's only about a third of the lots left to be built. If we doubled that volume and added that to the roadway, it's less than that background growth calculation. So it's essentially accounted for within the study. And that concludes my summary, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Could we do one thing for the group just before? Dave, could you go back to the left-hand turn lane? I just wanted to mention, one of the things that came up during TRG through the police report, or the police department, was, I believe, an additional 50 feet of left-hand turn lane coming from the north. So it was initially, when we spec'd it out, it was like a 50-foot, and then we did add, this plan is actually at 100 feet, turning left into the locus of the school.
It was initially designed to accommodate what that expected queuing was, but we realized that there can be some variation in that. A school bus alone takes up a fair amount of space, and so we added some additional length to that. It could easily be accommodated within the site design.
Any questions on that?
Pat, were you saying the left turn lane was expanded, or was it the right turn lane?
So it's coming from Somersworth, left into the school.
The left turn.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
That highlight there is
the thought, Ms. Pappas, is right turns are queuing in very quickly without needing to stop. And with 277 cars of storage, there's not going to be backing up right there. It's the left turn that may be stopped. But I'll remind everybody that the bus volume from that direction is severely limited by Haven Hill Road. So we doubt, districting-wise, there probably would never be 2 buses coming from that direction, but we've built to accommodate 2 buses, 1 bus more than the traffic study had originally indicated.
May I ask a few more? I had communicated with a resident of the area, and she brought up a lot of great questions, and I want to make sure that some of these questions are answered, if I may. You had just said that you tried to consider the expansion of Terra State, you just don't know what that expansion is going to look like, right?
Right, there wasn't
Just
anything that
clarify.
definitively established what was going to be built in the next 7 years, which is our horizon year, our future design year. We know that the lots are entirely approved, but that approval is old, very old at this point. It was a long time, and so we don't have any sense of what. But so we looked back at the growth calculations and determined that even if that build out happened in the next 7 years, the intersection accommodates it, the design accommodates it.
And I want to add to that we reached out very early in the process to the engineer of record for any Terra Estates future projects and coordinated with them. And through the city provided any documentation that they have. So we kind of drew information from both sides, and none of it really is flushed out or designed, shovel ready at this point.
Can I ask another? I know I was kind of shocked at the speeds, but I guess I'm kind of not surprised in some respects. But assuming that there's a school zone speed limit, what does that get reduced to? Is that a 20 mile per hour, 30 mile per hour?
So New Hampshire DOT guidelines are that a school speed zone is a 10 mile per hour reduction from the posted limit. So because the posted limit here is 30, the school speed limit sign would be 20.
Okay, so in theory, that should reduce the speeds of these cars, and if it doesn't, then the police should be there to enforce that, I would assume?
Yeah, so I think that obviously your 30 mile an hour posted limit today is being violated, but the weight of a school speed zone sign may help reduce speeds, and obviously enforcement, I think it would certainly be, logical for the police to be really enforcing this when this school first first opens, because it's gonna be necessary to retrain people that they need to go slower.
So part of the TRG response from Chief Boudreau was hoping to see beacons. And there are two kinds. There's one like we have on Brock Street that flashes during certain hours. And there's the other kind where you're going too fast and it's looking at your speed. And so I coordinated with Chief Boudreau. He gave me his preferred beacons. And Mr. Bristol and I are working on including those in owner side costs, to have beacons on either side that will tell you how fast you're going and ask you kindly to slow down.
Okay. If I maybe one last question, then I'll let everybody ask their question. Does that encourage people to speed up so that they can see how fast they can go? I mean, I'm just thinking of from my teenage years.
I'll defer to Chief Boudreau, because I asked about both kinds, and he said that was the way to go, so.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'll ask more questions.
They're most effective with semi-frequent enforcement, so that people realize that it's not a good idea to speed up when they see that sign or just to ignore it.
So last year, we lost the Whitehall Road going into Summersworth. So the only access into Summersworth other than the highway was Salmon Falls. Are we gonna be able to handle when all of Rochester that's going to Summersworth for work in the morning gonna decide to go down Salmon Falls? Because it's gonna be 2, 3, 4 times what your actual, you said the studies too, of what you have there, it's gonna be more than that. Literally, it took me about 40 minutes going down that road to get to Summersworth, because everybody was diverted and none of us were going on the freeway.
So that was a diversion because there was some reason why
There
the
was
road
power lines, and that was
Okay.
for 2 days.
Okay.
Down.
So I look at it as that's an infrequent, infrequent
Not in New
occurrence.
England.
What's that?
Not in New England.
It's not-
I'm saying, did any of that information get put in? And I got another follow-up behind that. Can the buses make the turn if they can't go down towards Portland? 2 weeks ago, there was an accident shut down Portland and Salmon Falls. The accident was a small bender, long enough for PD to get there. It was 1.5 miles long, it was 10 minutes. So now we have a fender bender. Can the buses divert, go down Salmon Falls, go down Whitehall Road, and make that turn? Otherwise, they're going all the way to Summersworth to come back down into Rochester. Because there is no cut through. Did the study take any of that information?
No. I think, those sorts of things you describe are infrequent,
I live right there. There's accidents at Portland all the time. Are the Portland and Salmon?
The stats don't show that.
So just,
You want me to take your pictures and send it to you every week?
just to provide some context to that situation, obviously it's an anomaly. We hope there aren't a lot of accidents. When there's an accident during school hours, when students are on buses, we have a great relationship with the police department. They contact us. If the buses are able to go a different way, they do. When there isn't an option like that, the police do a wonderful job stopping everything and letting the school bus actually through to accommodate the need for that. I'll use an example that was actually on Salmon Falls Road. There was a house fire a couple of years ago. Again, they coordinated with us. There was no one allowed access on that street except for school buses that were delivering children. So in any anomaly, we'll problem solve to make sure everyone's safe.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a question about, it says queuing limited to 1 to 2 vehicles entering and exiting. Does that mean limited, meaning the analysis showed that it will be between 1 and 2, or does that mean the design will
No,
only allow 1
the
and 2?
analysis shows that it will be between 1 and 2, and what that means is that it's calculating based on the amount of volume that's turning and the amount of volume that's opposing, determining when gaps exist so that people can safely make that turn. And it was only a 1 or 2 car queue, and actually on Salmon Falls Road, it was only a 1 vehicle queue. It was exiting that was a 2 vehicle queue. So now obviously, a school has some, some flex and, there's a burst of demand, and so it can exceed that. But that's also why the left turn lane was extended, so that we have some flexibility to accommodate queuing beyond what was predicted by the traffic analysis by the study.
Okay, just to clarify, so that means that, this is not my second question, but, so the turning lanes are big enough to accommodate the 1 to 2?
Yes, yes.
My second question was, I thought I saw in the study, I read somewhere, did it talk about backing up of traffic at stop signs on side streets?
There is, yeah, so the analysis, the other 2 study area intersections had queuing calculations at Whitehall Road and at Ida Circle and Eagle Drive. And both of those, Whitehall Road had some in the build condition, had up to 4 vehicles queued at the stop sign exiting on Salmon Falls Road. Eagle Drive was less than 1 vehicle. Well, a length that equates to less than 1 vehicle, so basically 1 vehicle.
What was that for, a delta though? Was that a delta?
What was the number on Eagle Drive? I couldn't hear you.
Eagle Drive, less than 1 vehicle, so it would not be more than 1 vehicle waiting to exit at any given time, based on what the analysis shows.
What was that change? So for the 4, that was more of my question, what's the increase? There's a projected increase because of this, from the 4 on Whitehall, that was the biggest one I saw. What is it already existing? So is it a +4, or is it a?
It's additional, so in the morning, it's 1 vehicle, and it increases to 4. So that's both the growth and the school demand. The afternoon was 2 and becomes 4.
Thank you.
Shane?
So I'm probably one of few that I'm very concerned with the traffic. I understand Salmon Falls Road, people tend to move pretty quickly. Brock Street, that's a straight shot as well. You would think people are flying down that road, but once the school went in, it's not that bad. Plus, if, like Steve was saying, if the bus had to turn around somewhere, there's an area on Haven Hill Road where you can turn before the bridge. There's a dirt area if they had to turn around. There's areas to turn around. So, it's people. I saw the numbers. I can honestly say, patrolling that road, I've never seen that high, I forgot, I'm not gonna go back to the paper, almost like 59, 60. I'm sure there are. We do have a radar trailer that gets put out and we see some numbers, but it's not that frequent. And I know a lot of people think people are flying, it looks that way, but they're actually not going as fast as you think.
Tim?
So my concern, or my questions are more regarding on the trip generations. Weekday morning, 160 entering. Weekday afternoon, 183 entering, 97 exiting. So with those numbers, I'm trying to, that's the number of vehicles entering the school that on a weekday morning that you're seeing 160? Is that the estimate?
Yeah.
But if we're planning on I think it's a real figure. They're planning on 275 parent cars coming in there in the morning. So how does that relate to that 160 trips?
So the 160 trips is based on industry data for typical elementary schools, and again, it's based on that peak hour.
So I think that we're planning on 275 or 271, something like that was the number that I heard right from the start.
Yes.
That's a real, in Rochester, that's a real.
So that number comes from Mr. Rapucci and I reviewing our current bus ridership, applying that to a population of 420, And then we would take out the bus riders, we know who the car riders are. So that's with Rochester. What that number doesn't, because Kyle and I aren't engineers, what that number doesn't include, he's looking at entering and exiting, because you don't have all those people there at the same time. They're coming in, that line moves. So, yeah, that's, I think, the delta.
Yeah, so I understand that, and I thought that's what it meant by trips, because, you know, I spent a number of years in planning, but, so, my concern of this project right along, and I think it's addressable, but is these turning lanes, and so I understand we've increased the turning lane northbound by an additional 50 feet. I think the turning lane southbound, which is the right turn lane, needs to have some consideration as well. I'm sure that we did all these, traffic study and all these same calculations when we just built the East Rochester School a few years ago. And every single day, there is traffic up anywhere from 10 to 20 vehicles stopped in Portland Street in the line of traffic, stopped, parked, waiting for other vehicles in the queue line to move so that they can then turn into the school. So it's an ongoing problem there every day, every school day. I go by there every single day. And people have to go out into the left turn lane and kind of race down to try to make it back into the right turn lane before the cars come in the other direction. Get there, because there's no turn lanes there. So I just want us to plan for that on this one and make sure that we, add a little extra room for some vehicles, so that if we gotta have 4 vehicles maybe, because they gotta slow down before they make this right-hand turn into this 90-degree turn into the school. They gotta go from, we'll say they're going the speed limit of 30, they gotta get down to 15 or so before they actually make that turn. So, and if 275 of them are arriving between, I don't know if the school start time is 8:15 or something, so they're arriving from 7:45 to 8:15. They're probably all arriving in that 30-minute time frame. We need to accommodate that line of traffic to be able to turn in there and get into the queue wrapped around the school. Once they're off the Salmon Falls Road, we're all set with them. They're in there. But on the Salmon Falls Road, I think that's one of the biggest concerns of the neighborhood is, what if we got 30 cars lined up on Salmon Falls Road waiting to turn into the school, and an ambulance is trying to get to the Terra Estates? That's what these folks' concern is. We don't want Salmon Falls Road blocked. So I want to make sure, I'm willing to, on my tax dollar, spend a few extra bucks, increase those turn lanes a little bit more to make sure that doesn't happen at this school.
Could maybe you just show them dimensionally how big the right-hand turn lane is there, so they can have some perspective?
Yeah, so this right-hand turn lane is 50 feet, is the storage length of where you see this line, so the actual lane storage, and then obviously there's some
How many cars is
area where the vehicle, 50 feet would typically be 2 to 3 cars.
Yeah.
But can you, so there's a gradual, so you see how, show them where the people going south to Summersworth
Right.
will pass by, and then
So-
the entire length of that?
Yeah, so this length, it starts to widen out here to enter this right turn lane. It isn't an abrupt kind of pocket. It develops, and then this through lane area where southbound through vehicles will continue past. So these vehicles will get out of the way. The same is true of the left turn lane. This highlight here, 100 feet, is the length of that left turn lane. Above that is where that through vehicle will continue northbound.
So if I can just continue to respond to your comments. East Rochester Elementary School wasn't a new construction project, it was a renovation. So we had an existing locus, and we couldn't make it any bigger because it's governed by property we don't own on either side and wetland right out back. So it would have been lovely to do there what we've done here and push way out back and make a loop to get that queuing off the street. But that wasn't, it's not that we did a study and it didn't work, it's that we didn't have an opportunity there because we were using the existing locus. So keep that in mind. This committee can certainly direct this project to add funds wherever and look at anything, but what we're hearing from all of the engineering data is that this is sufficient. It's already been to TRG, and TRG is they made a comment only about the left turn lane. The city already reviewed it and is satisfied with the right turn lane. So if this committee wants to go beyond that and add more than any other requirement, that's certainly within your purview, but that is what you're doing. We've already met city requirements and all the engineering requirements.
I understand, my concern is that if that turn lane is based on 160 Qs and we are really expecting 275, I'm not sure, that is sufficient.
Fair enough.
The distance of the traffic study, because it didn't, according to this here, it didn't go all the way to Portland. So it didn't go to Portland, which was one major intersection, or where to Whitehall Road. So what was the distance of the actual traffic study?
It was the next intersection, so it was the Whitehall Road intersection, whatever, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, so you only went to Whitehall Road, we didn't go down to Portland.
Correct.
So you only did the traffic down that way, or
Correct.
you did both ways?
It went up to
Ida
Eagle.
Circle and Eagle Drive.
Yes, Ida Circle and Eagle Drive also, to the north.
So
Those
Eagle
are the-
was as far north.
So those two intersections and then the site drive intersection.
Which is
Terrace
with
Estates.
Terrace Estates, which is
That's the furthest
beyond.
north.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Matt.
Just a couple questions. When the police department reported to you the collisions, does that have to be more than one vehicle? Meaning one car went off the road, does that count?
It would be whatever records they have. I believe that all of those crashes were more than one vehicle, but it would be whatever crashes they have record for. So
Just
it
because
could be.
that turn there, I'm just wondering.
It could be an animal strike, it could be, driving off the road, any of those things would trigger and would register, but they didn't identify any crashes recorded.
And probably Shane's gonna clarify that, but I have one thing, I'm gonna pick apart the numbers on you, okay? For example, on figure 3, the simple, and it's not in your slide deck, it's in the actual traffic study. 393 cars are going towards East Rochester, right? So they're no north, thank you. No one is going, according to your chart, no one's taking a left-hand turn, but only 351 continue. There's a difference of 393 and 351 that my simple math says, where did these, there's no other turn lanes, where did they go? And that's example after example, page after page. So I don't know if you're accounting for cars floating.
No, I mean,
I'm a smart person.
these are the actual
I don't
turning
know.
movement counts
Yeah.
recorded at the intersections.
That's weird that they just kind of.
We didn't do any balancing, that happens sometimes, and so there's lots of reasons why that can happen.
So either they went into a neighborhood.
I understand that is a significant number,
Yeah,
so.
that one was enough to say, there's not many cars going into a driveway nearby is what I'm getting at. If it was off by 10, I could see that, but that's where my concern was, there's 40 car difference here. That's all, I just brought that up.
Shane?
So a couple things. Yeah, a lot of deer strikes up on that road.
So single car work.
So first thing, how long is the left-hand turn lane? How long is that? If you're coming from the Summersworth side, if you're coming that way, how long is that for the turning lane there?
100 feet.
100 feet, okay. And the other question, where was this study for accidents, from what area to what area on Salmon Falls Road?
It was this study area, so it was from Whitehall Road to Eagle Drive.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Matt?
There was a concern about if there's a backup and if cars are backed up onto the road, onto Salmon Falls Road, and whether an ambulance can get to Terra Estates. So can you speak to that and whether that's taken into consideration? Is that an issue? Is that something that the city had a concern about?
Well, the point of having the turn lanes at the intersection is to get the turning vehicles out of the way so that there's still constant throughput on Salmon Falls Road. So I think, barring, we talked about it earlier, some anomaly, some significant crash, emergency response will do whatever they can to get those vehicles through. But the design Based on the study data, the design of the roadway accommodates maintaining through flow on Salmon Falls Road at the school driveway at all times.
So in your opinion, if people are sort of like stuck in the road waiting for cars in front of them to turn, if there's an ambulance coming behind them, they kind of inch forward and kind of get out of the way a little bit, so they allow the ambulance some egress to get through.
Right, and the road, the road widens out, in addition to the actual, like we talked about before, in addition to the actual 50-foot length for the right turn lane and 100-foot length for the left turn lane, there's room where it widens out. So in that sort of situation, there's room for additional vehicles beyond that 100 feet, 50 feet, for additional vehicles to get out of the way of an emergency vehicle. The other nuance, we heard some concerns from other schools where traffic's backed up in the street because they can't get onto the site to get into the queue. And we talked about how this site accommodates the queuing vehicles on site. So there's no expectation of delay other than waiting for your turn to make the turn from opposing traffic. There's no other expectation of delay to get off of Salmon Falls Road and onto the school property.
So since we're gonna have two elementaries getting out at the same time, within a mile of each other, using the same major road for entry and exit, why didn't we do a traffic study at Portland? Because now, anybody that lives in that area or in that neighborhood, and two of us here do, knows right when the Portland, or East Rochester gets out, Portland's a nightmare. Now you just added 200, 300 cars going to one school, on top of another 200 cars going to another school, estimated. Why wouldn't we have studied the biggest traffic jam that we've just created in the city?
The point was to study the impact of the new school.
That's what I'm saying, but the
Right.
impact of the new school there, with the, we took no into account of what we're doing to Portland. And we took, all you took is traffic coming down Salmon Falls Road. That's it. You didn't account for now anything coming down or going to Portland, making a right, going to the school. Or the traffic jam that you're gonna cause there.
Going to
Coming right out of Portland, going into Rochester, you have two schools getting out at the exact same time. Using one intersection.
We weren't asked to evaluate the traffic of the existing school. We were asked to evaluate the traffic of the new school.
Yeah, 'cause we're
So
gonna-
I understand your concern completely, but
Yeah, because we have one intersection that both schools will use to enter into Rochester.
it
We're
wasn't,
gonna make it, okay.
it wasn't part of the intent of the study, to study the existing school.
In that scenario, I don't envision that there are many students going to the new school that if they're going up to that intersection, they're gonna be taking a right. All the students living in that part of the town will be going to East Rochester. Most of them will be coming from the Chamberlain side, not the East Rochester side. But it still is an issue that maybe we should have looked at.
Any other questions?
Quick question. Is this your first traffic study?
No.
How many have you done?
Well, I've got 27 years of experience in this industry. So I've done easily 100 traffic studies. I've done probably 15 studies of schools.
Can you, just to help me understand, is there credentialing or licensing that allows you to be able to, how you interpret this information and bring it to us?
So I'm a professional engineer licensed in the state of New Hampshire. I'm a professional traffic operations engineer, which is a national certification, and a road safety professional, which is a national certification. So those are my credentials.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
I'm gonna go with, I'm glad you're doing that, but I live in that neighborhood with my experience, and I was elected by the Rochester people to ask these questions. So you could have all the things, I still have questions that I have to answer.
I appreciate that.
Shane?
That was very inappropriate for what David just did. There was no need for that. I'm done, we can move on.
Okay, any other questions for Greg? All right, thank you, sir. so much. Okay, next item is the construction manager report.
Good evening. Update since we saw you last month with saying that the project is on budget, as we had projected and hoped. A couple of things have transpired since then, so real quick on 3 bullet points. Site work scope of work. We had worked with a number of the bidders during that time to get to the budget that we had presented last month. And we are intending on awarding that to SUR Construction, which is right here in Rochester. They are the lowest qualified bidder and frankly brought a lot to the table during the GD development and really supported the effort, which was pleasing to hear at an early stage. So that's the initial intent to award that scope of work. It'll be subject to final documents that we're getting at the end of the month, at the beginning of March. But at the end of the day, we had competitive bidders that were looking at a set of documents that at the end of the day was the right choice for the group. Site electrical, we did hit on this a little bit earlier. The next slide will show it, or next visual will show it.
I have a cover one here.
We talked about, Patrick had talked about the meeting just last week with Eversource and not clear cutting and putting roads through wetlands and so on and so forth. So the electrical is going to be rerouted along the entryway. This dark line that goes through here. The purpose of this topic of discussion is we're looking for the board to make comment on an alternate way in which we would get electrical service to the building. Right now it's indicated to be underground, and Eversource had suggested the potential this could be done overhead and bring power poles down the road, which represents the red dots. That is our initial budget savings, is around over $200,000 worth of savings that would allow that money to be spent, since we know we're on budget. Somewhere into the project, we might be able to gather some findings of some more scope in the building rather than in the utilities that get buried underground. So it's our intent to have you chime in on how you feel about that. We can hit that after I hit the next subject, which is really quick on the subject, on the schedule. But essentially, the schedule that we've just prepared this week is showing us to start construction on May 6th, and we will be done construction on July 17th, 2025, in plenty of time for the school and the faculty and staff to get moved in for the start of the school year in 2025. So that's just a graphic. This will get updated weekly, daily, hourly sometimes, relative to the whole operations of the project when it gets to that stage. But as a pre-construction stage that we're at, before we started construction, this is the roadmap that we'll follow to get there. It's a 14-month duration. And again, because we have the site work contractor already intended to award, we're going to be able to take advantage of the spring weather when it shows up, and if it maintains showing up like it has been, we can get out there sooner if we wanted to get some activity going. But that's the hit on the schedule. So I'll take any comments or discussion about the one item about utility service, and then obviously my side of it is the dollars and cents, not so much the engineering.
Okay, Tim.
So, I'm always in favor of saving money. However, and you know, you guys will probably get sick of hearing me say it, I spent 20 years on the planning board in Rochester. We don't allow overhead services to new subdivisions, to new commercial projects, to new industrial projects. And so it'd be really hard for me to vote to say, yeah, the city can do it, even though I voted 175 times to say that private industry and citizens couldn't do it. We also just spent a number of $1 million over on North Main Street burying existing overhead lines underground to, you know, improve the site of an intersection that we were building. So, although it's a way to save money, I think it's a short-sighted way to save money. I think it's money well spent to bury the electric.
We are happy to do whatever you want to do, but we felt it was appropriate to bring it to your attention so that you could weigh in.
That's what I mean.
Yep.
Was that brought up to the TRG when putting
I was
overhead
not there.
versus?
I think it was post-TRG, so it was just a separate Eversource meeting, so.
Well, I kind of agree with Tim that
Yeah.
we're forcing everybody nowadays to go underground, and I don't see the city doing anything different. We put it underground for the new DPW, so.
What other utilities do you expect to go underground that will follow this?
So we have water, sewer, and electrical, tel data, low voltage, line voltage.
So they'll follow the same path?
Proximity, yes, the roadway essentially, either the left or the shoulder, so the.
Just a comment on your, kind of ties into your timeline. We had an issue with the city on, when we did the undergrounds on North Main Street with the utilities actually working together, different companies to get the different wires underground. So I just make sure you're tight on that.
Yeah.
That we're talking a pretty significant delay, and obviously delay is money.
Right.
More of a comment.
Duly noted.
Any other comments, Kevin?
Thank you. So the reason for moving it is so that you, I think previously I talked about there has to be an access road built. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I can speak to that, yeah, so we had run it up through the, kind of the trees there, we'd have to clear cut, construct an access road below those lines in order to maintain it.
Okay. But there's
It's
no
an
option,
Eversource requirement.
there's no option to underground closer to the, that's what I'm asking. There's no, so that was the only underground option?
Oh, it's gotta get to the back where the transformer sits, so the most logical place is where it's already cleared out along that road. There's two options. It would be to route it where we have along the left side of the driveway, or we'd have to circuitous through the site, which would be an even longer run and more expensive.
Because there's the wetlands in between was part of the other conflict, so going to the, I guess, north, right, around to the back where the utilities are, or following the road. If we're already here, it makes a lot of sense for us to be doing underground utilities while we're doing earth movement on the access road.
Keith, I don't know if you have the number or not, but when the utilities are put underground, how many, I don't know if they're called transformer boxes, there's like these boxes.
Yeah, pole boxes, and there's a series of them every 500 feet, 300 to 500 feet.
Every 500 feet?
Yeah. And they're not ones that stick out of the ground. Those are sector cabinets or other distribution or transformer type things, so that this would be flush to the ground pole boxes that you're able to get into, the utility company gets into.
Okay,
And they're not unsightly.
okay. I didn't know if we'd have those every
No.
500
No.
feet. I'm leaning toward underground utilities if we're gonna do this project. Make it look nice, make it, if we expect the same for developers to be putting it underground, I don't see why we should be different. Should we vote on it since it is a cost item? Any more discussion or questions about it?
No, and my discussion would just be that I hate to see ground being dug up always, but you can't ask people to do things that you're not willing to do. That's definitely on that. If that's what we require for commercial and developments, then we should abide by the same, even if it costs more. That's just cost of doing business on that.
And to Steve's earlier comment, we are in New England, we have weather and trees, lots of trees that come down, so less likely to lose power if it's underground.
We would like to see the non-wetlands route, though. That's
Yes,
an option.
non-wetlands road, exactly.
Yeah. All right,
Great.
would anyone like to make a motion to put the electrical?
I'll make a motion
underground?
that we continue with the underground utilities.
Second.
There being a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next is our owner's representative report. Gordon.
Thank you. And we will from time to time bring you items such as that. When we want a judgment call, that's why you're here as part of the team, so thank you for that input on the above ground versus below ground. So I'm just going to take you out as to what the next couple months look like. Keith alluded to it, but on March 1st, all of the drawings are at that point penciled down, and they go out for bid. We have the plans go out as well as the spec books that are with each division, so electrical, plumbing, the whole 9 yards, the whole entire complex. It goes out on March 1, we get the plans. On March 4th to 29th, it's about a 4-week period, is when everyone will bid. We'll come back that following week, and between March 29th and about April 10th, we'll internally review the bids and be ready to make recommendations as to which bidders should be getting the project, and then we come back to you folks here at the JBC and say, here's the magical number that we can do this for, and these are our recommendations, and you'll have a chance to have input at that point. I'm just seeing if we missed anything on review of bids. Yes, the recommendations, but you will have a way to participate, and that will be at your April meeting. We then see the contractors starting right in, and as Keith alluded to, we're going to have on May 6th, we're going to have the groundbreaking, and away we go. And we see the foundation being prepped about May 28th. We see footings going in the middle of June, and we see steel arriving on site the 1st of September. So that sort of projects out to you as to what the next 4 or 5 months looks like. So exciting times coming up. Some of the things we're doing in the background now is we're reviewing the kitchen equipment on any items that we can purchase now and have them sit and wait, and we miss any price increases by buying them now. So the kitchen equipment is a large item. You spend around $300,000 to $350,000 on kitchen equipment. We're also going to be looking at our building furniture. For all the furniture of the building, that can get up to a price around $700,000 to $800,000. So again, if you're putting all the furniture in, so again, if we can beat inflation, we will do that and buy it now. Now, one of the things we work out with the vendors in your behalf is warranties don't start till they go in the classroom. So if you're buying a stove and it sits for 8 months, you're not losing your warranty. We work that deal with them. They're anxious, everybody's anxious to get the job and to get the promise, and they'll work with us on warranty periods. So that is the things that are going on behind the scenes. Any questions, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, interested in the steel. First, a positive comment. I liked your last update where you said that you've got a lot of bids from local companies, which I think is excellent. You know, the workforce nearby that's going to be building the school. What about the steel? Where's this steel coming from?
Keith, I'm going to yield to you because that keeps changing in the world every year.
Yeah, we don't know yet is the first answer, right? So that's, we're not there at a point to be able to make that recommendation. We're buying steel currently on a number of projects. It's coming from anywhere, and from Portland and Maine, just over the river, to Quebec province in Canada. So we run the market. We just had one come from Ohio that was pretty competitive, believe it or not. So we'll find it what best suits the project, and certainly buy local, work local is a great thing, but it's really going to come down to who can perform best for us and execute the project.
Thank you.
And I ditto that same way. The steel mills typically Canada is taking over the lead in steel. Again, we try to buy USA if we can, but they seem to have a niche right now. But that changes about every year and a half. Some others of you have. Yes, sir.
Are you looking at purchasing the RTU units soon, since they are running anywhere between 52 and 60-week lead times with delays?
Same thing. I'm calling this like buying soybeans. And what we're going out there now and talking to the various companies and letting them know that we're going to be having projects this project is going to be ready to start buying things May 15th. We're already talking with them, and we will buy things and get it here. One of the questions, Eversource, to just take that to the next step. We said to Eversource the other day, well, we're just trying to decide all this stuff. When's your transformer going to be here? Because those have had as much as a year and a quarter lead time. Within the building, electrical panels can be a year and a quarter lead time. So we're aware of that, but want you to keep your feet to the fire. We are talking already with the vendors, and we try to grab them so that they're interested. So, yeah, there's lead time. Not as bad as it was 2 years ago, but it's getting a little bit better, but we still have some.
I'm going to go with Kyle and then Matt.
Just another important date for the JBC to hear, and why March is actually important. You saw that whole Gantt chart that had the list of dates. We're required to meet 7 criteria that the New Hampshire Department of Education has put before us so that we can get 80% of our $15.7 million cut to the city so we can start paying for things. One of those specifications is the certified drawings that will come as a result of this timeline. So it's extremely important that we, initially at least, follow this as closely as we can, so Mr. Toddy and I can submit that to the state, and I want to thank the city and the TRG for helping us along the way. And once we submit, we still have to wait for the fire marshal, and that's a 30 to 45-day window. But June is not that far away, and so we really need to make sure we hit the March deadline.
Mr. Bristol, you said that you're reviewing kitchen equipment, classroom supplies, guidance office, all that stuff. I'm wondering, does playground equipment also included in that? I mean, because I know that can be a long wait for that material as well.
Playgrounds, yes, we've budgeted for playground. Playgrounds have taken a life of their own these days. The actual getting the playground is not the difficult part now. Those, we would look for that to arrive in the spring of 2025. We would buy it ahead of time, but have it arrive then. The biggest cost that we've been thrown a curve by the state, and it's appropriate, there was the incident down in Wyndham, New Hampshire, in which they changed the state law now on handicap accessibility. And of course, we're all big believers that everyone should have full access. But that has cost a lot of extra money. We could be looking at as much as $75,000 to $100,000 just on the surface of our playground to meet that state law. We want to do that. But, so your question was on time frame, and I've expanded that to say that not only we'll take time frame into account, we can meet that. It's also the cost we've had to absorb because of the new state law, but an appropriate state law.
Thank you.
Thank you. My question was just about the plan. So those plans in March, are those like the 90% plans? How far are those plans?
We'll let Ingrid speak. I'm going to say that they're more than that.
Yeah, they're full bidding documents.
Okay, so they're fully, okay. And then my question on that was, so does that mean that the state permitting review will be done by March?
No, so March 1st is when we send it to Harvey. At the same time, we will be sending it to the state fire marshal. We're meeting with your building inspector and fire department on the 20th of February, so we can get in any other additional items into those bidding documents so they're competitively bid.
Okay. And I guess I was talking about more like land permitting.
So on the land permitting side, the NHDES alteration of terrain, we responded to comments. We're actually hoping to have that permit by the end of this month, given the review time that we had on the last set of provisions that we had submitted. So that we don't anticipate that to be an issue. This NHDES sewer connection permit, that doesn't need to be approved to start construction. That's really when we go to connect, and that's actually a further discussion that's going to be a part of the TRG. The city engineer actually has to sign that application before it goes up to Concord for review. So we'll coordinate the sewer design with city staff as appropriate, and then that'll go up to Concord.
A quick follow-up. Are you gonna do directly with the city engineer, or are they gonna fan it out to their subsidy engineers? That's gonna go directly to the city? That'll be a quick.
The application itself goes to the city engineer. We are meeting with city staff to discuss that review process.
Good to know.
It would behoove us to not, Mr. Mayor, have a third-party review.
I know, that's why I'm saying
That's why we're meeting with the city staff.
Good. Tim.
So just a quick follow-up on Kevin's comment about the bidding time. So March 1st, as you mentioned, going out to bid, and you're going to have final building specs ready for that. So some of the things we talked about were electrical outlets. Are they bidding by square footage, or are they bidding by, they count the fixtures and outlets and?
It will all be on the plans. So that plan, we've had many meetings to discuss and review and analyze and overanalyze that plan. So that's why we're going to be prudent and not scope creep and keep adding all these things. So we'll have an add alternate or a deduct alternate for that additional quad outlet.
So we'll be the extras cost a bundle of money, right? So we try to avoid that.
Right, when we try to set you up so you have decisions so that our base bid is under our budget, not on budget, under our budget, so that we can add things and we'll have contingencies, and as we go through the project, we'll have dates on when you need to make decisions on adding things.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Gordon?
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is other. Does anyone have anything under other? Matt?
I have two questions that I kind of missed earlier. With data for the school, is there enough on the street that we can plan for the future needs? I mean, I imagine we can meet the needs now, but this is a school we're hoping that is going to be well into the future. Is there enough data on the street that we can pull off for the school for internet and video and all that stuff that we're not going to have any problems?
Mr. Bristol and I have already been coordinating to have fiber extended down the street to make sure that there's fiber at the building.
Okay. My second question is probably for the engineers. With those road pull-offs that we're planning, what happens with what's there now are these ditches where water goes into? What happens to the water runoff there? Is it just pipes that's underground that continues under the driveway, or where does the water go from there?
Go to the grading plan, I can show that. So we've actually designed a stormwater management system that'll take in this flow. You can see here that we have graded out some swales here, and then it will capture that stormwater runoff and pipe it underneath to this swale, and then again discharging out along the road. So it has been taken into account as part of that roadway widening.
Just try just for clarification, so under, trying to think what rules they are, but design plan, the design has to not increase runoff, so no more water can leave the property post-design than does now, correct?
That's correct. The flows will have to match existing and post-construction.
Thank you.
Anything else under other?
I had an email from a local resident, and I think I had forwarded concerning safety, and I just wanted to bring it up and get your input. This resident was concerned that when they looked at the picture of the building, there was a lot of windows, and they thought, oh, if there are any windows, they should be bulletproof, and or there shouldn't be any windows below 6 feet off the ground, so that, possible intruders or something wouldn't have access. So I'm just wondering if you can, somebody can address safety, how safety is considered in the building of a new school, and how we address that in Rochester.
I'd certainly defer to Mr. Down's expertise on bulletproof windows and safety, but the cost difference to go to a full bulletproof window would be excessive. This school will enjoy the same protections in terms of safety glass as the rest of the district will have. And there's some, we don't want to talk too much about that, exactly how that happens, because you keep those kinds of things to yourself. Like our Department of Homeland Security, Department of Safety reviews of the buildings are documents that we don't share out, but they make recommendations, and we take those recommendations and we act on them.
That was another question of the email, was that Homeland Security is talked to regarding safety.
Yes.
We've already met with them once, and they're gonna be in part of the continuing discussions. So yes, we're interested to hit with them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just adding off that, I know when I read that email, the first thing that came to mind was we have to also balance the mental health of the children, and we don't want the first floor to feel like a prison, right? Though we want to protect our children, there's a balance of protection is more than the police at that time. But it's a good.
Matt?
Kevin brought up the concern about all that glass in the lobby and kind of no place to hide in some of these rooms. I'm wondering the next time you meet with Homeland Security, maybe get their opinion on that and whether or not it's appropriate to have that much glass?
We will, and one of the things in all schools now, you know, 'cause we all, the reason we put a team together is because we do other schools. And the experience we bring to this is that front lobby that you look at, looks like a lot of glass, but it's actually a way to capture the person. The presumption is that unless the bad person is gonna come in the back door, which they might, if they come in the front door and are agitated, they're captured in that double door section that then has bullet resistant, I know nothing's bulletproof, the new guns they have, but bullet resistant glass, and the person can be smashing chairs into it and that sort of thing, and it has a long time before they can get into the actual building. It slows the perpetrator down.
Okay.
So even though that looks like a lot of glass, it's meant to capture them in that area, and they don't get any further than that, and the police get a chance to get there by then.
Okay.
That's the design of it.
And I think it's also important to note that there's multiple points of egress in all of those spaces. So you envision a cafeteria full of students, right? First thing is to avoid, and it's out those back doors, and you're gone. So you're not sticking around. And the same thing in the gymnasium. Plenty of doors to egress and get out.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else under other? Okay, next I'd like to open public comment. If you're from the public, please come to the podium, state your name, address, and limit your comment to 5 minutes.
Hi, I'm from Tara Estates. I'm Carol Mayers. A lot of you may have already received various emails from me in the last week or two, so you know a lot of my concerns. I had a big meeting for 50 people from Tara a week ago, and these are some visual aids that I had at that point. Let's see, this one is AM. I have a lot of problems with the traffic study, which is the only thing I had. All the rest on the building and stuff you've been talking about is new to me. That just getting information from that report, I disagree. There's omissions, there's mistakes, the conclusions are wrong. There's a lot of things that I have on it. That basically, color's the only thing I could do. We've got 276 people coming north, and out of those, 76 are going to try and come into the school. This is based on the 160. If you're talking 270, that totally changes everything. And then getting back to Tara, we've got 5 houses complete but aren't sold, and about almost 60 more, period. But the roads are in, the utilities are in. We are waiting for transformers and better weather to put houses on it. So that's potentially 100 more houses. The other thing that's in the area is Sig Sauer. I wasn't aware of it till somebody brought it up. They're supposed to have 300 new employees at the other end of Salmon Falls. Let's say 1/3 of those come up here. I have had emails, phone calls. I get no answer from Sig Sauer's representative to find out, were they open on September 27th? They've been basically open for 4 months, so I don't know whether some of their employees were caught on that or not. But that's 2 more things of several hundred potential additional people here. Once Tara's done, that's it. There's no more building in there. There may be other places. So that you were saying over 7 years, we didn't know what's what. I think they're going to do that as fast as they can. So these 96 that come in here, there are 360 coming down from the north. How in the world are 96 cars going to cut through 360? You've got 4 cars lined up in the middle, period. Where are the other 92 cars going to wait? And if they block this lane, now the 180 that still want to go north, they're going to be sitting there. How's an ambulance going to get by? There's fire hydrants and phone poles in these and ditches on both sides. And there's no place. Normal in a regular road, you've got shoulders and places to go. There is no place to go on Salmon Falls. In addition, this lane definitely, 415 cars are coming out of the north, not counting the 100 or 200 I just said he missed. So only allowing room for 4 cars here is totally ridiculous. I used to live up in the Wakefield area, and on Sunday night, Going down to Spalding, people wanted to go onto 125. They're backed up 20 cars on the Spalding Turnpike because they can't get onto 125. This is going to build up probably 15, 20 cars all the way to Ida Circle. Down here, this probably needs to be at least 20 cars built up there, which means you need to widen the road to 3 lanes for hundreds of feet. And like I said, there's hydrants and phone poles there, and there's other poles right in this ditch. In addition to those two sets of turns, we've got 54 cars coming out of the school, which are from parents who've already dropped their school off. I don't know, try not to touch.
Yeah, just don't, you just kind of point it out, be careful, because
So
it'll go again.
what I wanted to know from Mr. Traffic, how in the world can you have traffic coming from 3 different directions in the same little space all at the same time? I totally disagree with your cues, etc. 4 cars here and 2 here are just absolutely ridiculous. And so I've said that in all my emails to you people. Then at PM, it's fewer. Somebody said that a lot of kids stay after school or they're half-day kindergartens. I don't really know quite what all those things are, but it's fewer. But it's still an awful lot of cars at this intersection coming from 3 different directions. But I mean, 360 coming down here. How many gaps are you going to have for this car to quick move over? And then not have 30, 40, 50, 60, 96 of them building up behind it. And that's, again, I said, using your 160 cars, and you're talking 270. So now we're off 300 cars, 100 potentially from Tara, and then whatever 6 Hour is, and then it's just totally impossible with what you're trying to put in here, unless you can come up and tell me, how do all this happen? I've also heard tales that Tara has a second entrance. They do, but it's down here, so that you can't have a 4-way intersection here unless you buy the next house or 2 and then do something. So that's off, I'm assuming. These ditches, I used to be in real estate, and I had the little wheel, and I went up and down Salmon Falls Road many, many times, and that traffic speeds. And I'm quick looking over my shoulder, and I'm stepping off the side because there's only 1 or 2 foot of pavement on the other side of the line. And so what I did is I went up here where the curve is, and I have no traffic coming at one point. I stood in the middle of the lane, and I backed up until I could no longer see the front of the white house that you're buying, because that's where all the traffic is coming in. And I measured between 440 and 460 feet. Let's see, you're Mr. Rapucci?
Correct.
Yeah, I sent you a letter, and I sent copies to the rest of the school board. Site by site, I mean, paragraph 3.1, look at this, 3rd paragraph, 4.1, etc. So do your homework and see where the discrepancies are in those letters. That you don't have enough line of sight. And you're talking about blinking lights and stuff when school opens and closes. Suppose a nurse or a parent is going in at 10 in the morning or 1 in the afternoon, and the lights aren't blinking. Cars are going to come as fast as they can, and they're going to broadside these, whoever's trying to go in and out. And then you talk, this is all just cars. What about the school buses? I figure 7 or 8 every morning in different directions. So that's going to take up most of the 4 couple things here. It's just totally impossible to get that many number of cars and everything in there. And then talking about collisions, according to the report, they asked the city police department for collisions within a 5-year period. I knocked on a dozen doors of houses all around here. And I literally was walking through 6 inches of surface water a week after the heavy rains. I couldn't even walk between the 2 houses. And that's exactly where you want to go put your underground utilities. All right, I think when you're putting pipes underground, how deep do they have to be?
So public comment, we'll listen to your comment.
All right, but you literally can't go down. And I used to be in real estate, and you've got to separate water and sewer and electric by certain distances, either this way or this way. You put a shovel in and it's going to fill up with water. There's surface water there now. There's no place for it to go.
Okay, I'm going to have to cut you off your
All
time.
right, I've got a lot more, but just read those letters I sent out.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to address the committee? Please state your name, address, and limit your comment to 5 minutes.
Peter Leduc, 732 Salmon Falls Road. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but just listening, I have a few concerns. I live on the house directly across the street from where you're building, the yellow house behind the guardrail. I've been there for about 1.5 years. I'm not against the school being built. I don't represent Terra Estates, and I will neither confirm nor deny how fast I drive on Salmon Falls Road. Just listening to some of the traffic study, I share some of the concerns that were brought up by some gentlemen over here. It seems to me that the parameters of the study are a little flawed and short-sighted. Don't take into consideration the broader spectrum, the perspective on the people like me and the people in Terra Estates who live there and experience the traffic. There's times where in the mornings where I'm pulling out of my driveway and I can't because the traffic is backed up already for various reasons, and that can be because of the trash trucks or school buses or mail trucks, plow trucks. Salmon Falls is a very narrow road, and oftentimes with those vehicles in the way, it turns into a one-lane road, and traffic is often backed up at various times. So I just wanted you to consider that as well. I think my takeaway just from this discussion is that it's your responsibility to anticipate potential problems and to do your due diligence to avoid them at all costs. And I think that should be done in a way that's not just bare minimum, but you're going above and beyond to avoid that. And I think that's in your favor, not just because, I think the whole way it's been framed is for the favor or for the best of the people who live there, like me, the neighborhood, but it's going to be in your best interest for the parents and the teachers and the school community as well to make sure that this doesn't happen. So I would just encourage you to go above and beyond and extend and do all you can do to prevent any kind of traffic and backup, because it would just be detrimental to our neighborhood that we love, and it could be a potential problem for your school families as well. So extending, again, I appreciate all the work that's gone into it, the thoughtfulness. I don't think anybody's done anything wrong. I think they've accomplished the studies that have been given to them according to the parameters that they've been given. But there's a few other factors there. I appreciate the turning lanes on the southbound and the northbound. I do think that increasing them on both sides would prevent potential problems. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I gotta run.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to address the committee? Please state your name, address, and limit your comment to 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Shirley Wilson. I live at 16 Blair Drive, which is in Terra Estates. I grew up in Rochester, born and raised here, graduated from Spalding in 1968, went off and spent 44 years working as a college professor teaching mathematics and doing a lot of administrative work, including building planning. And I retired to Terra Estates 7 and a bit years ago, and have enjoyed living there. I have a few observations. In terms of the number of houses that are going into Terra, 53 sites have already been approved by the city and are ready to go, as Carol said, waiting for transformers and so forth. The other 100 and some, we don't know where they're going and when they're going, but they could happen at some point. My biggest concern has already been echoed by the previous gentleman and by my neighbor Carol. I envision traffic backed up on the southbound side in such a way that it extends past the big curve in the road, and those folks racing down Salmon Falls Road are going to rear end some people. And people do race on that road, and like the previous gentleman, I won't admit how fast I go either. And when they put up that little box, 25 miles an hour, and they put the new speed limit up and they put the little box up, as soon as that box went away, the speed limit for everybody just started going a lot faster. So it may have some effect, but it's short-lived. I Two, I'm concerned about how on earth people from the northbound side are going to cross over the southbound side to get into the school building. I think the idea that 1 to 2 to 4 cars are going to be in that turn lane and the rest of them are just going to sail on by is really ludicrous. And I don't know how the 275 cars are supposed to move around the loop in the school facilities itself. That's a lot of cars and a lot of space. But somehow they're all gonna get down to there's 1 or 2 in each turn lane. I don't buy those numbers. And that's mostly my instinct in terms of being a mathematician. I would like to have you do the same kind of thinking the previous gentleman expressed. You've got to figure out how they were gonna take care of these traffic flow problems instead of waiting for it to start and then end up being like the school on Portland Street. It's bad. I have often waited for 10 cars to pass by Eagle Road so I could get out onto the Salmon Falls Road, and that's not even in the busiest part of the day. I'm retired. I can go in and out mostly when I please. I don't have to go out very often during the school rush hours, but it does happen. And so I'm hoping that there can be some ways to make this better. Signage, lighting, whatever it takes, I think those have to be addressed in what's going on that road. It's a good plan. I applaud you for all of your work. It's an incredibly hard job. I've done some of it myself, so I know what's involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to address the committee?
I agree with them all.
All right. I would like to close public comment. Item 9 is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Is there non-debatable? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.